Well, good evening, church. If you have your Bibles with you, if you'd open to Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. Short title, Really. Have you ever woken up to a bad day? You thought you were going to have a good day, and it just wasn't a good day. These things happen. There's a man that calculated, sorry about that, I'm clicking the wrong thing there. There we go. There's a man by the name of Dr. Cliff Arnold. He's a British psychologist that wanted to figure out what was the worst day of the year. Obviously, this is subjective because he had to take into consideration things like Christmas is wonderful, credit cards coming out of Christmas is bad, New Year's resolutions start to fail, and so he came up in the year 2006 with the 24th of January, I think was the Blue Monday, was the worst day of the year. So sometimes we just have bad days. When we see what happens to Peter and the apostles here, I imagine this is a bad day. Can you imagine you work all night? All night. You catch no fish. The rest of your friends, they are asked to clean the nets. So they're cleaning the nets. Your job is to clean the boat. And so you're cleaning the boat, and Peter and Andrew and James and John are off there doing their thing. And this guy comes up there, and he gets on your boat, and he says, "Can you put out a little bit?" And then he sits down your boat and starts teaching. You've been working all night, you caught nothing. What is it that you actually want to do at that moment? Yeah, you say, really? Is he really doing this? I don't know what your head will feel like. Maybe it's a little bit foggy, got a bit of a headache coming up, and then he starts to drone, and it's not good. So this is what we have happening here in Luke chapter 5. Jesus has just been led out, and he's been tempted, and he's come back, and he's inundated with a lot of people, healing a lot of people. He wants to get away. He does get away a little bit. The parallel to this is Mark 1:35. Peter finds him and says, "You need to get back into it." And all of this is sort of jumbled up in this section of Scriptures. It's a very busy time for everyone. On one occasion, while the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he was standing by the lake of Gennesaret. And he saw two boats by the lake. But the fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. Getting into one of the boats, which was Simon's, he asked him to put out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the people from the boat. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." And Simon answered, "Master, we've toiled all night and took nothing. But at your word I will let down the nets." And when they had done this, they enclosed a large number of fish, and their nets were breaking. They signaled to their partners in the other boats to come and help them. And they came and filled both the boats, so that they began to sink. But when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord." And he and all who were with him were astounded at the catch of fish that they had taken. And so also James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on you will be catching men." And when they had brought their boats to land, they left everything and followed him. What I did this morning is I took this and I just read through it and thought of a few questions as I was reading this. From the point of view of, wow, really? When things go wrong in our lives. A parallel to this, if you want to see a psalm writer that writes on this, would be Psalm 118. In Psalm 118, you see all these problems that they have. I mean, it's terrible. There's about 4 or 5. I was highlighting it just now while we were sitting here, and I was getting ready, thinking about things. And in amongst all of this, the last verse is great. The first verse is great. Psalm 18, verse 118, verse 14 is wonderful, you know. And so you have, in the midst of everything, when you're really down and out, that's when you get to see just how amazing God is. But you have to go with it. You can't just start the process. There's sometimes pressures in life will just get us starting moving in the right direction. But it's at that point that the church can take over. If you will lean on people like the people sitting here, they will take you further and they will help you through it. You can't do anything just halfway. It doesn't work. So yes, some of the things that can go wrong. Have you ever wondered why bother? You're trying to sell Mary Kay at the fair and no one stops by your booth. How would you feel? I've seen the Mary Kay booths. I've seen the jewelry booths, right, Rebecca? And sometimes it's pretty close to where the wine is and nobody comes to yours because they're all there at the wine booth, right? So how do you feel when this is happening? You spend, and by the way, registration is pretty high, isn't it? With $90 or something? Yeah, 50 to 100, and then you haven't started making profit. So it can get really bad. You spend hours raising godly kids, but they disappoint. You study hard. During, I think it was one of the prayers, or when we're getting ready, I heard somebody do something. One of the mothers said, "Really?" Something like that. You spend hours raising these kids, and this just happens. You study hard, and you get a bad grade. You clean the house, but it never stays clean. Does that ever happen? Like you make breakfast, and then lunch they want food again. What's with that? Surely breakfast would be okay, right? So how does this leave you feeling? It's like a bottomless pit, right? It just never goes away. Anyone have a story similar to that you can share with the class?
There was one night when the car wouldn't start.
Yes. Yeah.
I kind of thought for a minute, why bother? Why even come to church?
That's right.
Wednesday night?
Yes.
And, I was like, well, because God wants us there. So
yeah.
We piled in the car. We got here, so
Yeah. You came, right? It's not easy. You just wrote your bar exam, and I was so excited until I read the bottom note. It said, results out 28th of October. Wow! Why bother? To leave you stressed out for that long. Taxi's going to be climbing the pole. That's their cat. It'll be a nervous wreck by the time that happens. All right, really. Imagine working all night with no return. This is coming back to our study. Some people have really hard times. They fall on hard times. And Uber is one of the things that I found some people start to do, so that they're not, while they put their resume out, they're waiting for their job, so that they feel that they've got some kind of income. So imagine you do this, and you sit all night, and nobody calls you. And maybe even at the airport or close to the airport, so you can try to get some work, but no clients. All you want to do is pack up and go home. And then some dude shows up and uses your boat for a podium. So how would you feel, right? How do you think Peter's feeling? What would you be thinking? If that was you, would you be thinking that? Right? I mean, surely in the back of your mind, you might not say it, but surely in the back of your mind, you would at least be thinking about it. All right, so going on to what does Jesus tell Peter to do? So now you've got to unpack this verse. Look at every little thing that you can catch over here as to what Peter is, or Jesus telling Peter to do. Getting into one of the boats, which was Simon's, he asked him to put out a little from the land. That's not a very hard thing, right? It's just a small thing. and it's not too hard, you can think, well, I can see the need here. There's a lot of people, they're pressing in on him. If I back off, at least he won't get squashed, so I can do that. Put out a little from the land. And then, what does Jesus do? He makes himself comfortable, right? Now you know, you've got a problem. He sits down and taught the people from the boat. I don't see there where Jesus asked Peter, can I teach the people from the boat? He just got on, said, can you move out a little bit, sits down, just starts to teach. And when he had finished speaking, so we don't know how long that was, we do know that Peter was probably not in a good state with all that was going on in his mind and seeing his friends. They already got their nets almost clean. They're probably already folding them up, They're ready to go. And he's thinking, well, I've still got a couple of hours left to work. And when they'd finished speaking, he said to Simon, he says something again, put out into the deep. So first he says, put out a little. So now I want you to think about your own life. If you're in a really bad situation, and these things happen all the time, something's going to happen. Jesus is going to use someone or something to tap you on the shoulder and say, can you come and help me with something? Because it's normally going to be something that's not got to do with you. Depression gets us inwards. When we start being asked to do something out of ourselves, that's when we get a chance to get better. And so it'll be you'll have to do something. I normally volunteer. Somebody might say to you, I normally volunteer on a Thursday night at St. Elizabeth at the welcome desk. I can't make it this Thursday. Can you fill in for me? What's the first thing you're going to start thinking? Oh, I can't do it because I'm not qualified. And then Miss Yvonne says, no, you don't need to be qualified. She'll be ready for you, right? So he'll first ask you something simple, and then when you sort of commit to that, then there's going to be a next step, and it's going to pull you a little bit deeper in. Put out into the deep, and here comes the next thing, and let down your nets. What is he asking there? Did you catch it? Let down what? What? What's that? They'd already cleaned them. Okay, good. Okay, so Ms. Bates saw something. What else do you see? What's that? It's futile because we tried all night. What else? You see the plurality of the nets? Let out your net. You could have just put out one net. Right? If I'm there and I've been catching fish all night and I couldn't, and I've got 10 rods, I'm going to throw one out. I'm not going to throw all 10 rods out, right? So he says, put all your nets out. So if he puts all the nets out, what do you have to do? You have to clean all of them. You got it, right? You're catching up here. And so he says, let down your nets. Why? We're not just playing this. This is not just a dry exercise. We're doing this on purpose. Something's going to happen. So Jesus is going to ask you to do something, but you're going to see some kind of a result. Steve?
Well, back to your point about let down your nets, it's not let down a net, let down a couple. It was let down your net, let them all out. So don't hold something back.
Oh, yes.
Go fishing for somebody.
Yes.
You don't hold back and go, well,
yes.
not over there.
Yes.
Over here.
Yes.
Let it, use everything.
You got to fully commit. Have you ever seen somebody try to half commit to something and then they completely flop? Like these bicyclists that want to do a ramp or something like that, and they half commit and they fall. You've got to either commit completely with Jesus or don't commit at all. So identify a few actions there, I've seen them, between Jesus and Peter. And has Jesus gotten into your boat? Think about that, Betty.
One thing that I see here,
Yes.
is a lot of arguing on the part of those that are in the net.
Yes.
The one that's out there in the boat and
Yes.
they're arguing with it. Look, we've been out here all night.
Yes.
We've already cleaned our nets. You're nuts, They didn't do that. But then as you a little bit on down the line, I believe it is.
Yes.
And Simon, actually Simon had answered and said, Master, we worked hard all night. Nothing but I will do as you say and let down the nets.
Yes.
And so evidently they had to know him somewhat because it was like, go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful.
But let's catch up with what Miss Betty has just said there. Jesus is asking them to commit even after they failed and they don't argue. Sometimes the timing that Jesus has is perfect. He waits for us to be humble. He doesn't get us when we're proudful, when we've caught a big catch. He gets us when we're empty. So the quickest way to get humble is to meditate and pray. And you will be at the right place. The wrong thing to do is to be proudful because you will argue every time. But I've got nothing, so I probably shouldn't argue. He's pretty down right now. He's receptive in some sense. But how much better would it be if we're always receptive to what the Lord is going to ask us to do? So has Jesus gotten into your boat? Folks, Jesus is really good at getting into your boat. You've just got to see it. He's there all the time. He'll do it. He may do it through a child. He may do it through a friend. He may do it through circumstances. But he'll get in your boat. You just have to realize he's there. When things go wrong, Jesus is there. He doesn't always let things go wrong, but when they go wrong, if you invite him, he's there. What is Peter's answer? What do you think he was actually thinking? A, B, or C? Why bother? Really? You got to be kidding. All the above. All the above, right? And I don't think he verbalized it, but he must be thinking this. Well,
apparently they recognize him as someone with authority.
Yes.
They're doing everything he has asked them to do.
Yes.
He didn't command them. It's more of a
yes.
With you, or it's a request.
Yeah. They must have seen Jesus and been around him a little bit to know his reputation and things like that. Unfortunately, Jesus may come to you through a little child, He may use somebody insignificant to approach you. We need to try to be open. So what changes Peter's mind? But at your what? I will let down the nets. But at your word. So we have the word. We have the Bible. I read 2 Chronicles 4 chapters today, amongst some other things. And that was speaking to me. While Steve was here, I was thinking, Steve, of the opposite of, instead of talking against denominationalism, because I came in, I wasn't born in the church, I came in as an insecure Christian. But when you read that chapter, it's amazing, how the heathen kings rally against God, and God comes in and just slaughters all of them. And who are you? Who's your God? And then to realize there is a God. People may not believe it, So His word speaks powerfully if you'll be in it all the time. And that's sort of what he uses to get into your boat. What caused Peter to put any stock in this? Look at chapter 5, verse 3. What does it say in chapter 5, verse 3? Can somebody read that for me? What's that? Okay. It worked all night and it got nothing. What else? They let down their nets, right? They obviously were obeying him to a certain extent. They were trying to fight it, but they didn't. So what do you have that could be used as a fishing pier to catch your peers, right? There's a play on words there. What do you have? We have social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have an occupation. We have hobbies. We have family. We have houses. We have cars. We have a lot of things. Jesus is going to try to use us and what we are as a platform. And we've already seen by some insightful questions that he's not going to just use a little bit, right? He's going to want a lot. And so this is going to become clear now as we go through this. Choose this day whom you shall serve, Joshua says. What is the result of obedience? What is the result of obedience? To what extent did Peter obey? Little bit? All the way. What resources was Peter committing? Yes, his livelihood. Okay? If Jesus were to ask you to obey right now, what resources would you commit? Again, remember, you commit half. You can be hot or you can be cold, but if you're in the middle, it doesn't work out. So either you don't commit anything or you commit everything. You can't do this halfway. I saw Cheryl posted a really nice picture with a hearse today on Facebook towing a U-Haul. And somebody wrote there, I think somebody found the loophole, and I'm thinking, boy, that's a small little U-Haul wagon. Even if you can take a U-Haul with you, you can't. So look at some of the resources that I've got listed here, just to bring it out a little bit more. What was happening to his nets? What's that? They were getting dirty? What else? They were breaking. They were breaking, okay. What was happening to his boat? We're sinking, all right? What is happening to his energy? It's already depleted, and it's really getting depleted here. I mean, you're already tired. What is happening to his partners? What's that? They got dragged in. Same thing. Their nets are breaking. Their boats are going down. This is a pretty bad deal that's happening right over here. Jesus is sinking their business. Well, they didn't know that right then. So let me just paraphrase what Will said here. It doesn't really matter if you don't commit everything or if you do. You're going to lose it in any case. When? Well, where's Peter right now? Where's James? Where's Andrew? Where's John? Where's Matthew? Where are all these guys right now, right? Whatever they committed, they still have. Whatever they held, they lost by not giving it. That's the bottom line of what we have here. When you commit to obey Jesus, what will it cost? When you commit to obey Jesus, what will it cost? Luke 14:26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, and yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. This time of the year, I hear some really crazy things from people who are struggling. And most of the time, it's because they starting to figure out they're not in this world. And this world is rejecting them. And that's the truth. This world, you're not of this world, and this world is rejecting you. It's not a rumor. They really are. Your friends that you used to hang out with, that you used to have a good time with, they are rejecting you. That's going to happen. The more you lean on Jesus, Steve, the more the devil will lose you, right? Remember? In your Devo, and then you get this bullseye on you, and the devil really goes for you, and he goes for you through your friends often. What religious epiphany does Peter have here? Can somebody read verse 8 for me? Luke 5, verse 8. So what religious epiphany did he have? Okay, and what does Jesus use about this? Later on, Jesus calls this a confession. This becomes the rock of the church. What happened here is probably the most significant thing in the history of our church. Because Jesus built, later on, Peter would actually confess, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God," based on this, based on what he saw. This is the first time it happened, and it built. And it's amazing what happened. One man. And who did this one man's life change? Peter. Whose life did Peter change? Okay. Have you had such an experience? Have you had a religious epiphany? Have you come to a point where you realized, I can't go on like this. I've got to give it up. I've got to let God take over. Or God really wants me to do something, and I'm going to do it. If not, what could you do that would lead to such? What could you do that would lead to such an epiphany? Okay, let me make it easier for you. What did Peter do? He listened. Exactly. He didn't do much else. Jesus was doing the pushing, wasn't he? All he had to do is say yes. Yes. So this is what I've done in my life, and it's worked. If somebody asks me to do something, and I can at all see myself possibly doing it, I'll do it. But it's really hard. It's not easy. But I'll try. I won't do it well. I might make a total fool of myself, but I'll try. And I will try to practice and rehearse and be prepared, as much as what I can. And so if you do that, then Jesus can keep moving in your life. Yes, ma'am? Yes. Yes.
And I also have been looking at 2 Corinthians with all of the kings and how it's back and forth and back
Yes.
and forth. And of course, the nation of Israel,
Yes.
Judah.
Yes.
But anyway, and it's like when Joash
Yes.
was the king.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in the eyes of God to the prophet. And
Yes.
I'm sure there's too many oaths and names pronouns. But anyway, the priest, he had been faithful up until after he died.
Yes.
And then the prophet Zechariah, I believe,
Yes.
was sent because Joash then ended up, even though he had rebuilt the temple, etc., he ended up, once the priest had died,
Yes.
he had ended up going back
Yes.
to the old ways. He had
Yes.
listened to his officials. So conversely, what does Jesus commit to do to you if you don't follow?
Yes.
You know, it's like,
There's a lot of back and forward, and that's one of the beautiful things of reading Kings and Chronicles. You see the backwards and forwards of people try, and then they give up a little bit, and then God comes back, and I won't listen, and then all of a sudden you got leprosy for the rest of your life, and because you want to burn incense, you see the back and forward. So God is there, and He does do things in our life that's pretty shocking. This last question over here, all who were affected by Peter's obedience, it was Peter, James, and John were all affected, and Andrew were all affected and pulled in because one man decided to do the right thing. All right, and then what is Jesus' challenge in verse 10? Have you received this call from Christ? Who receives such a call? And what I have down here is just to let you see that we all do. 1 Peter 4:10, as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another. So we've all received gifts. We must all use these gifts. And then what is their reaction in verse 11? What should our reaction be? If you were to answer Jesus right now, what would you say? Would you like to say yes to following Jesus? If not, what excuses would you offer? And then I've got just one last thing there is some excuses. And I looked at a list of excuses. There's some really nice excuses in the Bible. If you want to make them, they'll be there. Let's conclude with a word of prayer. Father God, we thank you so much that you sent your Son, Jesus, to step down into this boat that we call earth. Father, you gave us an ark in the days of Noah, and you've given us an ark through the body of your Son, even in this day. Help us, Father, to not just get into the boat, but to continually let Jesus get in the boat with us. Father, let us not focus on the winds and the waves around us, but rather, Father, on the strength and the power of your Son. And Father, let us not accredit all the good things happening in our lives to just good luck, but rather to see that you're there, Father, that you help us. Father, if there's somebody today that is struggling or that is thinking about following you, Father, please give them the strength to take the first step, or to follow up on the first step that you've taken tonight, and to go all the way and to see just how incredible you can bless their lives. Father, be with us through the rest of this week. It's through your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ.